Here we go. On the news part of things today in the NHL, Chad Johnson's been claimed from the Blues by the Anaheim Ducks. Why? Because Ryan Miller's out 6 weeks. So because I'm waiting for Ryan Miller to pass John Van Beesbrook, he's out for 6 weeks, and I can't help but feel partly responsible. Sorry, Ryan. I really wanted to see you get that record. And all kidding aside, hopefully going to Anaheim turns Johnson around. I don't know how much they're going to play him, though, because Johnson will be behind one of the better starters in the league in John Gibson, and Gibson can play a ton. In going from St. Louis to Anaheim, Johnson's going from a team that's well out of the playoffs to a team that's played its way into the playoffs. And looking at his overall stats, I think it would probably take back-to-back games and Gibson having a really rough night before Johnson would get into the next game. That being said, remember, Antti Niemi at this time last year, everybody was laughing and joking about him, and now he's a qualified backup in the NHL. Michael Ferland has spoken up and said he's worried as he returns from his second concussion. He is worried about his overall health. He's come back relatively quickly from it, but he's concerned. And this is something I expect to see with players. And I think what we're going to see is players starting to say, well, I've had 3 concussions. I've made X amount of dollars. I'm going to retire because I don't want to take that risk. I've made enough money to live on the rest of my life, and I'm good. So we'll see what happens with Ferland, and hopefully he remains healthy the rest of the year. He's got 11 goals. He's been one of the best, most consistent scorers for Carolina when he's in, and we'll see where things turn out for him, or how things turn out for him. Charlie Coyle apparently is on the trade block for Minnesota. Well, he's been sitting at 4 goals and 9 assists for a while, I believe. I don't think this is news that Coyle's on the block, but that has come out publicly. Apparently they're shopping him around. I don't know what your value would be on Coyle at this point. Is he a second liner? Probably a third liner. So for a team looking for a top 9 forward, you might offer something up, but it's not going to be anything really, really fantastic. I could see Coyle ending up in, for instance, Carolina. That would kind of probably make sense. Coyle has shown recently he can score, and Carolina would need that. And Carolina has defensemen that they're listening to offers on. I just don't know that Minnesota necessarily would be looking to beef up the blue line, because other than that, I'm not sure how they would work as trade partners. The NHL's testing a color-changing puck. Don't worry, it's not the Fox Tracks puck. There won't be a puck with a tail on it on TV. Basically, how it works is that your pucks are frozen, right? So while it's frozen, the ink on the back of the puck will be purple, and when the puck thaws out, it turns white. So if the puck has white writing on it, they'll toss it aside, refreeze it, and they'll put a new puck on the ice. I can see why the NHL would do this. How many games have we seen where a puck is bouncing? So there's a prime opportunity. The puck bounces right over the stick. You miss out on a goal. And you'll hear guys saying, man, that ice was bad and the puck was jumping all over the place. I think that's what this is to try to get rid of, is that now you have something you can look at and say, all right, this puck is too warm. We got to get a new one. Cracknell's been traded to the Ducks for Alexi. This is just a depth move. I don't know that Adam Cracknell will come up and play for the Ducks. Because I think they've got plenty of depth there. Alexi is another defenseman now that gets slotted in. I believe he's a defenseman. I'm pretty sure he's a defenseman. Slotted in as another defenseman for Toronto. And speaking of which, Calle Rosen signed a 2-year extension, and I'm not sure what they're doing with Rosen. Is Rosen going to play in with the Marlies for that whole contract, or are they planning on bringing him up? I've been really curious because with Borgman and Rosen, it's felt like since they came in, and there was a lot of talk about them before they came into the league, that they were going to be top 6 guys for the Leafs. What is their future, collectively and separately? And I'm wondering with Rosen, because I like Calle Rosen when I've seen him play, but clearly Leaf management over the last few years feel he has a lot of work to do on his game. So we'll see. It's also come out, Bob Cole's last game, he'll call a Habs-Leafs game towards the end of the year, which means if this is to be believed, he won't call any playoff games this year. You know, Bob Cole calls a game the other night. The Battle of Alberta, I believe, was the game he called. And he just makes the game feel like hockey. I don't know how else to describe it. Bob Cole, for me, is the hockey guy for me growing up. That when I would turn on the TV and it was Hockey Night in Canada, and you hear that Hockey Night in Canada theme, which TSN owns, and it's too bad that they do. Because you hear that Hockey Night in Canada theme, you'd go to Ron McLean in studio, and you'd throw to Bob Cole in the booth. It was Bob Cole and Harry Neal, and the two of them together was just fantastic. Harry Neal with his self-deprecating humor, and Bob Cole, who has always had trouble with certain names. He's always had trouble with some of the things that people complain a lot about now, but he's just so genuine. He's so passionate about the game, and we're really losing something when he goes. So I would recommend to everybody that you watch that last game of his, and I'm leaning towards recording it just because it's a historical thing. He, for me, is what Foster Hewitt was to previous generations. He's absolutely the absolute best announcer I've ever seen calling hockey games, and I know a lot of the younger kids now don't like him. Oh, he gets names mixed up, he gets that mixed up. I believe he's in his 80s at this point. That shouldn't be a huge surprise. And the fact that he is able to call the games and still call it as he did back in the 80s is really impressive. And finally, I want to talk, just touch on the Bortuzzo-Sanford fight at St. Louis's practice yesterday. This is what happens. And Craig Berube said after the fight's due to frustration, and this is how the Blues are feeling right now. They're mad at themselves. They're probably mad at each other. It is not an unusual thing to see happening for a struggling team to have fights in practice. I'm trying to remember who had the fight in practice for Montreal last year. I remember a fight in practice for Montreal. I'm pretty sure it was last year. This is what happens. Your team's in a slump. You're having a hard time. Practice sucks. You want to go out on the ice. You want to prove you're a better team. Every night it seems to be getting worse. So for these guys, it just boils over. And then discussion of, maybe they should trade Sanford. Maybe they should trade Bert. No, you don't need to trade it out. These guys fight it out, and likely afterwards they just talk it over, and they're fine. But it is a dark time right now to be a St. Louis Blues fan, and this is the kind of thing that can happen. Firing Mike Yeo hasn't really turned their fortunes around, and clearly there's a fracture going on with the team, and how they deal with it from here will decide Doug Armstrong's fate. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video, and thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks for all your support. I'll talk to you again soon.